Captain Daehyun Kim stood in the massive chamber and felt very small. The room was enormous, bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see it. Around him sat the representatives of 23 alien civilizations, each one looking down at the humans from their elevated seats. Daehyun wore his best uniform. His second-in-command, Commander Minji Park, stood beside him. They had traveled for 3 months to reach this place, a giant space station called Horizon's Gate. It floated in neutral space, far from any star system. This was where the Galactic Council met to discuss important matters. Today, humanity was asking to join them. Daehyun had prepared his speech carefully. He talked about what humans had achieved in the last 50 years. They had built faster-than-light ships, even if those ships were slow compared to alien vessels. They had colonized 12 star systems. They had developed energy weapons and defensive shields. Humans had worked hard to prove they deserved a place among the stars. The aliens listened in silence. Some had multiple eyes that blinked at different times. Others had skin that changed colors. A few didn't even have faces that Daehyun could recognize, but he could read their body language well enough. They were not impressed. When he finished speaking, the chamber fell quiet. Then High Chancellor Vextra leaned forward. She was an insectoid creature with a hard shell that gleamed under the lights. Her voice came out in clicks and whistles, but the translator in Daehyun's ear turned it into words. "Captain Kim," she said, and Daehyun could hear the amusement in her tone. "We have reviewed your application. We have examined your technology. We have studied your civilization's history." Daehyun felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Your species is very young," Vextra continued. "You have only been in space for 50 of your years. Some of us have been traveling between stars for millions of years. Your fastest ships take months to cross distances we cover in days. Your weapons are primitive. Your shields are weak." Ambassador Krell spoke up next. He was a large reptilian creature with scales that looked like armor. "Let me be clear, human. Your entire military fleet could not damage one of our patrol ships. Not one. We have tested this in simulations. Your weapons would bounce off our shields like rain on stone." Several aliens made sounds that the translator couldn't interpret, but Daehyun understood them anyway. They were laughing. "Surely you can see," Vextra said, "that you are not ready to sit among us. You are children playing with dangerous toys. We cannot allow such an immature species into the council." Daehyun kept his face calm, but his hands clenched into fists behind his back. "High Chancellor, we may be young, but we are not children. We have proven ourselves peaceful. We have followed all galactic laws. We have caused no conflicts with other species. What more do you want from us?" "Time," Vextra said simply. "Come back in 1,000 years. Perhaps by then you will have matured enough." 1,000 years? Minji spoke up, unable to stop herself. "Our people need to expand. We have limited resources. We need access to more star systems." Krell's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "That is not our problem, human. You should have thought about that before breeding so much on your little planet." Vextra raised one of her many limbs, calling for silence. "The council has made a decision. Humanity's application is denied. Furthermore, we are establishing an exclusion zone around human space. You are forbidden from expanding beyond 500 light years from your home system. This zone will remain in place for 1,000 years, at which point you may apply again." Daehyun felt like he had been punched in the stomach. An exclusion zone. They were being caged like dangerous animals. "You cannot do this," he said, and he heard his voice shake with anger. "You cannot trap us in our own space. We have the right to explore the galaxy." "You have the rights we give you," Krell said. "Be grateful we are not declaring your space off limits to yourselves. We could quarantine you to your home system if we wished." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Daehyun looked around at the alien faces and saw nothing but contempt. They thought humans were a joke. They thought humanity was so far beneath them that they were not even worth considering as equals. Vextra made a gesture and holographic displays appeared in the air. They showed massive alien warships, each one the size of a small city. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could withstand stars going supernova. Their technology was so advanced that it looked like magic. "Look at what we have built," Vextra said. "Look at what civilizations can achieve when they have time to develop properly. You are not ready for this, Captain Kim. Accept our judgment. Go home, grow up. Perhaps in 1,000 years we will have this conversation again." Daehyun wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them they were wrong, that humans were capable of so much more than they believed. But he looked at those warships and knew the truth. In a straight fight, humanity would lose badly. The aliens were right about that much, at least. "I understand," he said quietly. "We will abide by your decision." "Good," Vextra said. "You may leave." Daehyun turned and walked toward the exit. Minji followed him. Behind them, the aliens had already moved on to other business. Humanity had been dismissed, forgotten already. They walked through the corridors of Horizon's Gate in silence. The station was beautiful, filled with technology that humans could barely understand. Aliens of dozens of species moved around them, going about their business. None of them even looked at the humans. They were beneath notice. When they reached the docking bay where their ship waited, Minji finally spoke. "Captain, this is not right." "They cannot do this to us." "They already have," Daehyun said. He stopped at a viewport and looked out at the massive alien warships floating in space around the station. Each one could destroy Earth's entire defense fleet without taking damage. The technology gap was real. The power imbalance was real. "What are you thinking?" Minji asked. Daehyun was quiet for a long moment. He watched those warships and thought about the laughter in the council chamber. He thought about how Vextra had called humans children. He thought about Krell saying their weapons were useless. "I am thinking," he said slowly, "that they should not have laughed." "What do you mean?" "They think we are weak. They think we are helpless. They think we will just accept this and go away quietly." Daehyun turned to look at his second-in-command. "But they do not understand humans, Minji. They have never had to fight for survival like we have. They have never had to claw their way up from nothing. They have been powerful for so long that they have forgotten what desperation feels like." Minji's eyes widened as she understood. "You want to fight them?" "Not today," Daehyun said. "Today we are too weak. But someday? Yes, someday we will come back here and they will not laugh. They will not call us children. They will respect us or they will fear us. Either way, they will never dismiss us again." "That could take decades. Centuries even." "Then we start now," Daehyun said. He looked back at the alien warships one more time, memorizing every detail. "We go home. We tell Earth what happened here. And we make sure that when humanity returns to this council, we return with firepower." They boarded their small ship and began the long journey home. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued their meeting, already having forgotten about the primitive humans who had dared to ask for a seat at their table. They would remember soon enough. The journey back to Earth took 3 long months. During that time, Daehyun sent encrypted messages ahead, preparing the government for what had happened. By the time his ship entered Earth's orbit, the entire planet knew about the rejection. The news had spread to all 12 human colonies. People were angry, scared, and confused. Daehyun stood in front of the United Earth Command headquarters in Geneva. The building was made of steel and glass, looking out over the mountains. Inside, the most powerful people in human civilization waited for his report. He took a deep breath and walked through the doors. The meeting room was full. President Yoon Ji-song sat at the head of the table. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Next to her sat Admiral Ji-won Lee, the supreme commander of all Earth's military forces. She was younger than the president, with short black hair and scars on her hands from years of military service. Also present was Dr. Hyun-woo Choi, the lead weapons researcher. He was thin and wore thick glasses, always looking like he had not slept enough. Around the table sat generals, admirals, scientists, and political leaders from every major nation and colony. "Captain Kim," President Yoon-ji said, "please give us your full report." Daehyun stood at attention and told them everything. He described the council chamber, the alien representatives, the contempt in their voices. He told them about the exclusion zone, the 1,000-year waiting period, the laughter when he mentioned Earth's military capabilities. When he finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then one of the generals slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. They are trapping us, limiting our growth. We cannot accept this. We have no choice," another leader said quietly. "Did you see the size of their warships? We would be crushed in hours." Arguments broke out around the table. Some wanted to fight immediately. Others wanted to accept the decision and work within the restrictions. Some suggested trying diplomacy with individual alien species. Everyone had opinions, but no one had solutions. President Yoon-ji raised her hand and the room fell silent. She looked at Admiral Jiwan. Admiral Lee, give us the truth. Could we win a war against the Galactic Council? Jiwan's face was grim. No, Madam President. Not even close. I have run the simulations 1,000 times. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Our shields cannot stop their weapons. Our ships are slower, smaller, and weaker. If the Council decided to destroy us, we would be gone in less than a day. So we are trapped, someone said. We are trapped by our current technology, Dr. Hyunwoo spoke up. Everyone turned to look at the scientist. He stood up, adjusting his glasses nervously. But technology can change. Not fast enough, Jiwan said. We have been studying alien technology for years. The gap is too wide. It would take us thousands of years to catch up. To catch up using their methods, yes, Hyunwoo said. But what if we do not try to catch up? What if we go in a completely different direction? President Yoonji leaned forward. Explain. Hyunwoo pulled up holographic displays showing complex scientific formulas. The Galactic Council species have existed for millions of years. Their technology is refined, stable, and efficient. But it is also conservative. They have found what works and stuck with it. Get to the point, Doctor, Jiwan said. The point is that humans are reckless, Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. We try things that more advanced species would consider too dangerous, too unstable, too unpredictable. I have been working on theoretical weapons that no sane, long-lived species would ever build. He changed the display to show weapon designs. Quantum cascade missiles that exist in multiple dimensions at once. Singularity cannons that weaponize micro-black holes. Temporal disruption fields that can age a ship hundreds of years in seconds. These are not stable technologies. They are dangerous, difficult to control, and could blow up in our faces. Then why build them? Someone asked. Because we are desperate, Hyunwoo said simply. Because we have nothing to lose. Because a species that has existed for 1,000,000 years would never risk their precious lives on weapons that might kill them. But we are young and angry, and we do not care about playing it safe. The room was quiet as people absorbed this. Admiral Jiwan looked at the weapon designs with new interest. How long would it take to develop these weapons? Decades, Hyunwoo said. Maybe a century. We would need to pour every resource we have into research and development. We would need to build new shipyards, train new engineers, and test things that might destroy our test facilities. That is a long time, President Yoonji said. It is much shorter than 1,000 years, Daehyun pointed out, and we would be doing something instead of sitting in our cage waiting for permission. Jiwan stood up and walked to the holographic displays. She studied the weapon designs carefully. If we do this, we cannot half commit. We would need total dedication. Every colony, every resource, every scientist and engineer. We would need to go completely dark. Dark? Someone asked. A communications blackout, Jiwan explained. We cut off all contact with the rest of the galaxy. We let them think we accepted our punishment and are sitting quietly in our corner. Meanwhile, we build weapons that will make them regret laughing at us. President Yoonji looked around the table. This is a decision that will affect all of humanity for generations. We would be committing our children and grandchildren to a life of constant preparation for war. Are we willing to do that? What choice do we have? Daehyun asked. If we accept their judgment, we die slowly. Our colonies will run out of resources. Our population will have nowhere to expand. We will be trapped forever, always at the mercy of species who see us as primitives. He is right, Jiwan said. This is not just about pride. This is about survival. We either fight for our future, or we accept slow extinction. The vote was called. It was not unanimous, but the majority agreed. Humanity would go dark for 75 years. Every resource would be directed toward military development. They would build weapons the galaxy had never seen. They would create a fleet that could stand against the Council's might, and then they would return to Horizon's Gate and demand their place at the table. After the meeting ended, President Yoonji called Daehyun to her office. Captain, I want you to join the military development program. You have seen their power firsthand. You know what we are up against? Daehyun nodded. I will do whatever is needed, Madam President. Good, Yoonji said. She looked out the window at the mountains. 75 years is a long time. I will not live to see the end of this project. Neither will most of us in that room today, but our children will. Our grandchildren will. And when they return to that council, they will not be laughed at. No, they will not. Daehyun agreed. Yoonji turned to look at him. What will you tell them when we go back? The council, I mean. What will you say to High Chancellor Vextra? Dahyun thought about the laughter in the council chamber. He thought about Krell saying human weapons were useless. He thought about being called children and primitives. I will tell them, he said slowly, that they should have shown us respect when we asked for it, because now we are going to take it. The next day, Earth went dark. All communications with other species were cut off. The borders of human space were sealed. Every shipyard began construction of new vessels. Every laboratory began researching new weapons. Every military academy started training soldiers for a war that might come in 75 years. Dr. Hyunwoo moved to a secret research facility in deep space. He assembled a team of the brightest scientists humanity had to offer. They began working on projects that would have seemed like insane science fiction just months before. Admiral Jiwon restructured the entire military. She created new divisions, new training programs, new doctrines. Everything was designed around one goal: defeating enemies who were technologically superior. Dahyun joined a special unit tasked with studying alien tactics and weaknesses. He watched recordings of Council warships over and over, looking for any flaw, any vulnerability. The galaxy noticed when humanity went silent. Some alien species wondered what happened to the primitive humans, but most did not care. The Council assumed the young species had accepted their place and were quietly developing within their allowed space. They were wrong. In hidden shipyards scattered across 12 star systems, humanity was building something new. Not exploration vessels or trade ships, warships, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers. Ships designed for one purpose: to fight and win against impossible odds. In secret laboratories, scientists pushed the boundaries of physics. They created weapons that bent the rules of reality. They developed defensive systems based on quantum mechanics and probability theory. They built engines that could push ships to speeds the Council had never imagined. Years passed. The first generation of scientists and soldiers retired. A new generation took their place, born into a civilization dedicated to war. These young people grew up knowing only one truth: humanity had been humiliated, and they would be the ones to avenge that humiliation. 75 years after Dahyun had stood in the Council chamber and been laughed at, humanity was ready. Admiral Taijin Ro, who had been born the year after the rejection, stood on the bridge of the newest human warship. It was called the Indomitable, and it represented everything humanity had built in their years of isolation. Send the message, he ordered. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council received a transmission. It was simple and direct. This is humanity. We request a second hearing. We are coming. Dr. Hyunwoo Choi was 40 years old when he arrived at Research Station Prometheus. The station floated in deep space, hidden between star systems where no one would accidentally find it. It was here that humanity's most dangerous work would be done. The first 5 years were the hardest. Every experiment seemed to fail. Every weapon prototype either did nothing or exploded catastrophically. Hyunwoo lost 3 research facilities and 17 good scientists to accidents. Each time he wanted to give up. Each time he remembered the laughter in the Council chamber and kept working. The breakthrough came in year 6. A young engineer named Yunahan proposed something crazy. Instead of trying to make stronger shields, what if they made shields that were never in the same place twice? She called it phase shift technology. The shields would rotate through different dimensional frequencies thousands of times per second. Enemy weapons would hit empty space most of the time. They tested it on a small ship. It worked. Not perfectly, but it worked. For the first time since the project began, Hyunwoo felt hope. More breakthroughs followed. A team in another facility developed quantum cascade missiles. These weapons existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. You could not shield against them because they were not entirely in normal space. When they hit from multiple angles at once, tearing ships apart from the inside. Another team, led by a quiet scientist named Jinho Park, created the Singularity Cannon. It fired controlled micro-black holes. The projectiles were tiny, barely larger than atoms, but they contained immense gravitational force. When they hit a ship, they created localized gravity wells that crushed the target from within. Shields meant nothing against gravity. Year 15 brought temporal disruption fields. These were Hyunwoo's personal project. The technology was based on manipulating time at the quantum level. A ship caught in the field would age centuries in seconds. Its hull would corrode, its systems would fail, and its crew would die of old age. It was horrifying, and Hyunwoo hated creating it. But he knew humanity needed every advantage they could get. While the scientists worked on weapons, Admiral Ji-Wan Lee was rebuilding the military from the ground up. She knew that better weapons meant nothing without good tactics and well-trained soldiers. She created a new officer training program. The first class included a young man named Suho Kang. He was born 3 years after the council rejection, which meant he had never known peacetime. War was all his generation understood. Suho excelled in tactical simulations. He thought differently from older officers who had been trained for exploration and peaceful contact. Suho only knew how to fight enemies who were stronger than him. He learned to use speed, surprise, and ruthlessness to overcome superior force. "The council thinks we fight like primitives," he said during one training exercise. "So let us fight like primitives. No honor, no fair play. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we disappear before they can respond." Ji-Wan promoted him rapidly. By age 25, Suho was a fleet commander. By 30, he was helping design new combat doctrines for the entire military. Year 30 brought the first Retribution-class dreadnought. It was nothing like Earth's old warships. The hull was made of programmable matter that could repair itself. The engines used matter-antimatter reactions to achieve incredible speeds. The weapon systems included every piece of technology humanity had developed. Engineer Yuna Han, now in her 50s, oversaw the integration of all systems. She had gone from a junior researcher to the chief engineer of humanity's war fleet. She stood in the massive shipyard and watched as the dreadnought took shape. "It is beautiful," someone said beside her. Yuna turned to see General Minho Bayek. He was in charge of military strategy, planning how humanity would actually use these new weapons in combat. "It is terrifying," Yuna corrected. "We have built a ship designed only to destroy. There is no scientific equipment, no exploration tools, no diplomatic facilities. Just weapons. That is what we need," Minho said. "The Council does not respect scientists or diplomats. They only respect power." "I know," Yuna said quietly. "That does not make it easier to accept." By year 40, Dr. Hyunwoo was 70 years old. His hair was completely gray, and his hands shook from years of exposure to exotic radiation. But he was still working, still pushing forward. He had one final project, something he had been developing in secret for decades. He called it the Omega Protocol. Only a handful of people knew it existed. The weapon was so powerful, so dangerous, that even testing it was impossible. The simulations suggested it could destroy entire star systems. It worked by creating a cascade reaction in a sun, turning it into a supernova on command. Hyunwoo hoped humanity would never need to use it, but he made sure the plans were complete and secured, just in case. Year 50 saw the completion of the Ghost-class frigates. These ships were designed to be invisible to sensors. They used quantum stealth technology to bend light and radiation around them. A Ghost-class ship could slip through enemy formations completely undetected. Suho personally commanded the first fleet of Ghost-class ships. He ran exercises where his frigates would sneak past Council-equivalent defenses and strike targets before anyone knew they were there. His success rate was 98%. "The Council has relied on their sensors and shields for millions of years," he explained to his officers. "They trust their technology completely, so we will make their technology useless. We will be ghosts. We will be nightmares they cannot see coming." Year 60 brought swarm carriers. These massive ships carried millions of AI-guided combat drones. Each drone was small, fast, and carried a single powerful warhead. Individually, they were not dangerous, but millions of them attacking at once could overwhelm any defense through sheer numbers. The swarm AI was sophisticated enough to coordinate complex attack patterns, but simple enough that it could not be hacked or turned against humanity. Each drone communicated with the others using quantum entanglement, making the swarms impossible to jam or intercept. General Minho ran simulation after simulation, testing the swarms against virtual council fleets. The results were encouraging. Traditional defenses were not designed to handle millions of small, fast-moving targets. The swarms got through every time. Year 70 marked a turning point. Dr. Hyunwoo died at age 87. He had spent 47 years working on weapons, pushing himself far beyond what his body could handle. On his deathbed, surrounded by his research team, he gave final instructions. "Do not stop," he whispered. "Do not slow down. The Council thinks they are safe because we have been quiet. They have no idea what is coming. Finish the work. Make them understand that humanity cannot be caged." His funeral was attended by thousands of scientists, soldiers, and engineers. President Yoon Ji-sung, now 93 and confined to a wheelchair, gave the eulogy. Dr. Choi gave his life for humanity's freedom, she said. He will not live to see the council bow to us. But because of him, that day will come. We will make sure of it. 3 years later, President Yoon-ji also passed away. She had led Earth through the darkest period of its history, committing everything to a gamble that might not pay off for decades. Her last words were simple: do not let them laugh at us again. By year 75, a new generation had taken control. Admiral Taejin Ro commanded the military. He was 47 years old and had never known anything but preparation for war. Captain Hana Yoon, at 35, commanded the flagship Indomitable. Engineer Yuna Han, now 75 herself, oversaw the final integration of all weapons systems. They stood together in the main hangar of Shipyard Central, looking at the assembled fleet. 300 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. Dreadnoughts that could survive direct hits from weapons that destroyed planets. Frigates that could disappear from all sensors. Carriers that deployed swarms of millions. Destroyers armed with weapons that bent the laws of physics. This is it, Yuna said quietly. 75 years of work. 75 years of sacrifice. It all comes down to whether we got it right. We got it right, Taejin said with confidence. I have run every simulation imaginable. We can win. Simulations are not real battles, Hana pointed out. No, Taejin agreed. But they are about to be. The final weapon loadouts were completed. The last ships received their crews. Training exercises finished. The fleet was ready. General Minho Bayek presented the final battle plans to the military leadership. We will not attack the council directly. That would be suicide no matter how good our weapons are. Instead, we will demonstrate our power. We will show them what we can do. We will make them understand that fighting us would cost more than they are willing to pay. And if they decide to fight anyway, someone asked. Minho's expression was grim. Then we fight. And we make sure they never forget the price of underestimating humanity. The order was given. The communications blackout ended. A simple message was transmitted across the galaxy, reaching Horizon's Gate and the Galactic Council. This is humanity. We request a second hearing. We are coming. The council received the message with confusion and amusement. 75 years was barely a blink of an eye to species that lived for thousands of years. They assumed the primitive humans were sending another pathetic delegation, probably to beg for a reduction in their exclusion zone. They had no idea what was actually coming. In the shipyards, Admiral Taejin gave the order to deploy. 300 warships, the most advanced vessels humanity had ever built, powered up their engines. The fleet formed into perfect battle formation, a display of coordination and discipline that would have impressed even the council if they had been watching. Set course for council space, Taejin ordered. Full speed. Let us remind the galaxy that humanity exists. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were going to war, not to conquer, but to earn respect. They were going to show the Galactic Council that the species they had laughed at 75 years ago was laughing no more. Behind them, the entire human civilization held its breath. 75 years of work, trillions of credits spent, thousands of lives dedicated to this single goal. Everything depended on what happened next. The dark years were over. The time for demonstration had begun. Council Admiral Thexer was bored. He had been a military commander for 300 years, and nothing interesting ever happened anymore. The galaxy was peaceful. No one dared challenge the council's authority. His job mostly involved escorting diplomatic vessels and occasionally scaring off pirates. So when he received orders to intercept a human delegation, he saw it as a minor annoyance rather than a real mission. He remembered when humans had been rejected 75 years ago. The memory made him chuckle. Such a primitive species, thinking they deserved to sit with their betters. Take 50 ships, his superior had told him. The humans are sending vessels into our territory. Remind them of their place. Do not destroy them unless they resist. We do not want to deal with the diplomatic complaints. Thexer assembled his patrol fleet. 50 warships, each one capable of destroying entire planetary defense systems. It was massive overkill for dealing with a few human ships, but the council believed in making strong impressions. His fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the designated coordinates. Thexer expected to find a small diplomatic vessel, maybe with a few escort ships. What he found instead made him freeze. 300 warships hung in space, arranged in perfect military formation. They were not the crude, bulky vessels humans had used 75 years ago. These ships were sleek and dangerous-looking, covered in weapon systems Thexer did not recognize. "Scan them," he ordered his crew. "What are we looking at?" The sensor officer worked frantically. "Sir, I am reading energy signatures I have never seen before." Their weapons are powered up. Their shields are active. They are in full combat readiness. Thexer felt the first stirring of unease. This was not a diplomatic mission. This was a battle fleet. He opened a communication channel, making sure his voice carried the proper tone of authority and contempt. "Human vessels, you are in violation of the exclusion zone. Power down your weapons and shields immediately, or we will disable your ships." The response came from a ship at the center of the human formation. The voice was calm and cold. "This is Admiral Tajan Rowe of the United Earth Fleet. We are not powering down. We are here to send a message to the Galactic Council. Your message can be delivered by one ship," Thexer said. "The rest of your fleet will turn back now, or we will force you to turn back." "No," Tajan said simply. Thexer was shocked. No one said no to the council. "What did you say?" "I said no," Tajan repeated. "We are not turning back. We are not powering down. This is not a diplomatic mission, Admiral. This is a demonstration. You have 30 seconds to raise your shields before we fire." Thexer laughed. He could not help it. These primitive humans thought they could threaten a council fleet? It was absurd. "You are making a terrible mistake, human. Our ships are invulnerable to your weapons. We have shields that have never failed in 10,000 years. We have armor that can withstand the heat of stars. You cannot harm us." 20 seconds, Tajan said. "Fire on them," Thexer ordered his fleet. "Disable their weapons and engines. Use minimum force. I want them alive to face trial for this insult." The council ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced across space, each one powerful enough to vaporize a mountain. They hit the human ships dead on and passed right through them. "What?" Thexer stared at his display in confusion. "Report!" "Sir, the human ships are phasing in and out of normal space," the sensor officer said, voice shaking. "Our weapons are hitting them when they are not entirely in our dimension. The shots are passing through with no effect." 10 seconds, Tajan's voice came over the channel. "Adjust fire," Thexer ordered. "Predict their phase patterns and time our shots." His ships tried, but the human vessels were changing their phase frequencies randomly. There was no pattern to predict. The Council's weapons continued to miss or pass harmlessly through ships that were only partially in normal space. "Time's up," Tajan said. The human fleet fired. Thexer had been in space combat before. He knew what weapons looked like. Energy beams were bright lines of light. Missiles were visible as they flew. Projectiles showed up on sensors. What the humans fired did not look like any weapon he had ever seen. Some projectiles seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Others warped space around them as they flew. Some were invisible except for the ripples they left in reality itself. A quantum cascade missile hit the ship next to Thexer's flagship. The weapon existed in multiple dimensions at once, striking the vessel from angles that should not exist. The shields flickered and died instantly, unable to block something that was attacking from outside normal space. The hull tore apart like paper and the ship exploded. A singularity cannon round hit another Council warship. The tiny black hole punched through the shields as if they were not there. Gravity did not care about energy fields. The ship began to crumple inward, crushed by its own mass as the gravitational anomaly expanded inside the hull. A swarm of millions of drones descended on 3 Council ships. Point defense systems destroyed thousands of them, but there were too many. They hit like a wave of metal insects, each one detonating on impact. Shields overloaded from sheer numbers. Armor cracked. Hulls breached. The ships went dark, their systems destroyed. Thexer watched in horror as his fleet died around him. These were not supposed to be primitive humans. These weapons were not supposed to exist. "Return fire," he screamed. "All weapons." His ships tried. Energy beams and missiles filled space. Some of them actually hit human vessels. For a moment, Thexer felt hope. Then he saw the results. The human shields rotated through dimensional frequencies. Most shots hit when the shields were not in normal space and did nothing. The few hits that connected were absorbed by armor that should not have been possible. The armor was made of something that repaired itself as fast as it was damaged. A human destroyer took a direct hit from a weapon that should have vaporized it. The shot left a crater in the hull. Then the crater filled back in, the programmable matter flowing like liquid to repair the damage in seconds. "This is not possible," Thexer whispered. A temporal disruption field activated around 5 of his ships. Thexer watched as the vessels began to age rapidly. Their hulls corroded in seconds. Their systems failed as components wore out in fast forward. The crews inside aged and died. Within 30 seconds, the ships were ancient wrecks that fell apart and drifted in space. "Admiral, we have lost 30 ships," his sensor officer reported. "Our weapons are ineffective. Request permission to retreat." Thexer wanted to order a retreat. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But he was a council admiral. He had his pride. "All ships, emergency power to shields. Ram the human vessels if we have to. We cannot let them—" A relativistic kill vehicle hit his flagship. Thexer had a fraction of a second to see it on sensors. A projectile the size of a bus accelerated to 99.9% of light speed. At that velocity, it carried kinetic energy equivalent to a nuclear explosion. It hit his ship before the flash of its launch reached them. The impact went straight through his shields as if they did not exist. Physics did not care about energy fields when dealing with that much mass moving that fast. The projectile punched through the flagship from front to back, the kinetic energy of the impact tearing the ship apart from the inside. Thexer was thrown from his command chair. Alarms screamed. The ship was dying around him. Through the chaos, he heard Tajin's voice over the still active communication channel. "Cease fire," the human admiral ordered his fleet. The human weapons stopped. The sudden silence was almost as shocking as the violence had been. Thexer pulled himself up and looked at what remained of his fleet. 47 ships destroyed. Only 3 survived, and his flagship was crippled, life support failing. A human destroyer pulled alongside the dying flagship. Thexer could see it clearly through the breached hull. The ship was undamaged except for a few scorch marks that were already repairing themselves. Captain Hana Yun's voice came over the emergency channel. "Admiral Thexer, your fleet is destroyed. You have 3 choices. You can try to fight with your remaining ships and die. You can surrender and be taken prisoner. Or you can leave." "Leave?" Thexer asked, his voice weak. "Take your 3 surviving ships back to the Council," Admiral Tajin's voice said. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity is no longer the species they laughed at 75 years ago. Tell them we are coming to Horizon's Gate, and we will have our seat at the council table. This is not a request. This is a fact." Thexer looked at his tactical display. 3 ships left out of 50. The human fleet had barely taken damage. It had not been a battle. It had been a slaughter. "Why are you letting us go?" he asked. "Because we want you to deliver a message," Tajin said. "We could have destroyed all of you. We could have left no survivors. But we want the council to know exactly what we can do. We want them to understand that if they try to stop us, this is what happens. We want them to be afraid." Thexer understood. The humans were not trying to start a war. They were trying to prevent one. They were showing enough strength that the council would think twice before attacking them. "They will send everything against you," Thexer said. "Thousands of ships. Weapons that can destroy stars. You cannot stand against the full might of the council." "Maybe," Tajin said. "Or maybe we have more surprises. The council does not know what we have been building for 75 years. They do not know what other weapons we have developed. Are they willing to risk their entire civilization to find out? Are they willing to lose thousands of ships to stop us? Are they willing to watch their worlds burn?" Thexer was silent. He knew the answer. The council species had existed for millions of years. They valued their long lives. They would not throw them away in a war against an enemy who had just destroyed a fleet in 4 minutes. "Go," Hana said. "Before we change our minds." Thexer ordered his 3 damaged ships to retreat. They limped away from the battlefield, leaving the wreckage of 47 warships floating in space. The human fleet maintained formation, not pursuing. They just waited silent and deadly like predators watching prey escape. As Thexer's ship jumped to faster than light speed, he took one last look at the human fleet. 300 warships, each one proven deadly, and somewhere behind them the rest of humanity, with weapons and ships the council knew nothing about. For the first time in 300 years, Admiral Thexer felt fear. The journey back to Horizon's Gate took 2 days. During that time, Thexer sent detailed reports to the council. He included sensor logs, weapon analyses, and casualty reports. He told them everything that had happened, knowing many would not believe him. When his battered ships arrived at the council station, he was summoned immediately to explain how he had lost 47 warships to a species the council had dismissed as primitives. He walked into the council chamber, his body still bearing injuries from the battle. The chamber fell silent as he entered. "Report, Admiral," High Chancellor Vextra commanded. Thexer took a deep breath and spoke. "The humans are coming, and they are no longer asking for permission." The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Admiral Thexer had just finished his report about the destruction of his fleet. The alien representatives were shouting at each other, arguing about what to do. Some demanded immediate war. Others urged caution. No one could agree. High Chancellor Vextra watched the arguments with growing frustration. She was old now, even by her species' long standards. She had been in charge when humanity was rejected 75 years ago. She remembered laughing at Captain Daehyun Kim and his primitive weapons. She was not laughing now. "Silence," she commanded. The chamber fell quiet. "We must decide quickly. The human fleet is 3 days away from reaching the station. What do we do?" War Marshal Droken stood up. He was massive, his species bred for combat over millions of years. "The answer is obvious. We mobilize the full council armada. We show these upstart humans what real power looks like. Yes, they destroyed one patrol fleet, but we have thousands of ships. We will crush them." "Did you not hear the report?" another counselor asked. "Their weapons ignore our shields. Their armor repairs itself. Our sensors cannot track their ships properly. How do you propose we fight enemies we cannot even hit?" "With overwhelming numbers," Drokan said. "Even if their weapons are effective, they only have 300 ships. We send 3,000. We accept losses and destroy them through sheer force." "And how many will die?" asked Counselor Myrith. She was ancient, even by galactic standards. Her species was one of the oldest in the galaxy, and they valued wisdom over violence. "How many of our ships will be destroyed? How many of our people will never return home? Are you willing to lose hundreds or thousands of vessels to stop one species?" "They attacked us," Drokan roared. "They destroyed council ships. We cannot let that go unpunished." "They defended themselves after we caged them," Myrith countered. "We created the exclusion zone. We treated them like criminals for the crime of being young. Perhaps we brought this on ourselves," the arguments resumed. Vextra listened to them all, but she was watching the tactical displays. The human fleet was moving steadily toward Horizon's Gate. They were not hiding. They were not trying to sneak in. They were coming openly, confidently, daring the Council to stop them. Ambassador Krell, the reptilian who had mocked humanity 75 years ago, spoke up. "I say we negotiate. Send a delegation to meet them before they reach the station. Find out what they want." "We know what they want," Vextra said quietly. "They want what they asked for 75 years ago. A seat at this table, respect, the same rights we all enjoy." "Then we give it to them," Myrith said. "We admit we were wrong and grant their request. That would make us look weak." Droken protested. "We already look weak," Myrith said. "We lost 47 warships in 4 minutes. The entire galaxy knows about it by now. How does starting a war we might not win make us look stronger?" The debate continued for hours. Finally, Vextra called for a vote. Should the Council mobilize for war or attempt negotiation? The vote was close, but negotiation won by a narrow margin. Vextra felt relief. She did not want war with these humans. She had seen the sensor logs from Thexer's fleet. She had watched ships die to weapons that should not exist. She was old, and she was tired, and she did not want to spend her final years watching the galaxy burn. "We will meet with the human delegation," she announced, "but we do so from a position of strength. Mobilize the defense fleet around Horizon's Gate. If the humans attack, we defend ourselves, but we will listen to what they have to say." 3 days later, the human fleet arrived. Admiral Taejin Ro stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at Horizon's Gate. The massive space station was surrounded by Council warships. He counted over 200 vessels, each one ready for combat. "They are trying to intimidate us," Captain Hanayun said. "Should we power up weapons?" "No," Taejin said calmly. "We are not here to start a war. We are here to end one before it begins. Keep weapons offline but shields at maximum. I want them to see that we are willing to talk but ready to defend ourselves." The human fleet took up positions around the station. They maintained perfect formation, each ship exactly where it should be. It was a display of discipline and coordination that impressed even the council observers. Vextra watched from the council chamber. The humans could destroy the station if they wanted to. Their weapons had proven that. But they were holding fire, waiting to see if diplomacy was possible. Let them enter, she ordered, but keep our defenses active. Admiral Tajin entered the council chamber alone. He wore his dress uniform clean and sharp. He walked to the center of the floor with his head held high. He did not look like he was asking for permission. He looked like he was claiming what was rightfully his. The chamber was the same one where Captain Daehyun had stood 75 years ago. Taijin had watched recordings of that meeting 100 times. He had memorized every insult, every laugh, every dismissive comment. He spoke without waiting for permission. High Chancellor Vextra, members of the Galactic Council. 75 years ago, my people came to this chamber and asked to join you. We showed you our achievements. We explained our peaceful intentions. We requested nothing more than the same rights you all enjoy. His voice was calm but carried throughout the chamber. You rejected us. You laughed at us. You called us children. You caged us in our own space and told us to come back in 1,000 years after we had grown up. Vextra felt shame. She remembered that day. She remembered the contempt in her voice when she spoke to Daehyun. You made a mistake, Taejin continued. You thought because we were young we were weak. You thought because our technology was primitive we would always be primitive. You underestimated what humans can do when you push us into a corner. War Marshal Droken stood up. You destroyed council ships. You killed thousands of our people. And now you come here making demands? Taejin turned to face him. I come here making one demand. The same demand we made 75 years ago. Respect. A seat at this table. Freedom to explore the galaxy. Nothing more. And if we refuse? Droken asked. Then we go to war, Taejin said simply. You will win, eventually. You have thousands of ships. We have hundreds. You have billions of soldiers. We have millions. But we will make you pay for every star system. Your civilization has existed for millions of years. How many of those years are you willing to spend burying your dead? The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood the threat. The humans could be defeated, but the cost would be enormous. You cannot threaten the council, Droken said, but his voice lacked confidence. I am not threatening, Taejin replied. I am stating facts. We have weapons you cannot defend against. We have developed technology specifically designed to counter your advantages. We are younger, faster, more desperate, and more willing to take risks you would never accept. Yes, you can destroy us, but the galaxy will burn while you do it. Captain Hana's voice came through Taejin's earpiece. Admiral, the station is powering weapons. Taejin did not react. He kept his eyes on Vextra. Well, High Chancellor, do we talk or do we fight? Vextra looked at the human standing before her. He was not begging. He was not asking for mercy. He was offering a choice, accept humanity as equals or pay the price of war. She thought about the 47 ships destroyed in 4 minutes. She thought about the reports of weapons that bent physics and ignored shields. She thought about the millions of years her species had existed, and how much of that history could be lost in a war with these desperate, dangerous humans. Stand down, she ordered. The weapons around the station powered down. She looked at Taejin. What guarantee do we have that humanity will be peaceful if we grant your request? The same guarantee you have from any council member, Taejin said. Our word, our reputation, our understanding that cooperation benefits everyone. We do not want to conquer the galaxy. We want to be part of it. Councillor Myrith spoke up. High Chancellor, I move that we vote on humanity's membership immediately. This conflict serves no one. We were wrong to cage them. We should admit our mistake and move forward. Seconded, another councillor said. The vote was called. Taejin stood in the center of the chamber and waited. The votes came in one by one. Some species voted against, still bitter about the destroyed fleet, but most voted in favor. When the final vote was tallied, Vexitra announced the result. By majority decision, humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The exclusion zone is lifted. You have the same rights and responsibilities as any other member species. Taejin allowed himself a small smile. Thank you, High Chancellor. On behalf of humanity, we accept. Do not think this means we trust you, Drokan said. We will be watching you closely. Good, Taejin replied. Watch us. Learn from us. Maybe you will remember what it means to be hungry for knowledge instead of comfortable in your power. The formal ceremony was held the next day. A seat was added to the council chamber for the human representative. Admiral Tajin took that seat, the first human to sit as an equal among the galaxy's great civilizations. After the ceremony, Vexitra approached him privately. They stood at a viewport, looking out at the human fleet and the council warships now peacefully coexisting. "I must ask," she said, "how did you do it? How did your species advance so far in just 75 years? Tajin considered the question. "You have lived a long time, High Chancellor. Millions of years your species has existed. You've become comfortable, safe. You do not take risks anymore because you have too much to lose." "And humans?" Vextra asked. "We had nothing to lose," Tajin said. "We were caged, dismissed, laughed at. So we became desperate, and desperation makes you creative. Desperation makes you willing to try things that safe, comfortable species would never attempt. You have better technology, but we have something you lost long ago. We have hunger." Vextra was quiet for a moment. "I see, and the weapons? The ones that ignore our shields?" Tajin smiled. "You have been using the same defensive technology for thousands of years. It works, so you never changed it. We studied your shields and found ways around them. We developed weapons based on theories you probably considered and rejected as too dangerous or unstable. We took risks you would never take. Will you share this technology with the Council?" Vextra asked. "Eventually," Tajin said, "but not yet. Right now our technology is the only thing keeping us safe. The only reason you respect us is because you fear what we can do. Once we have proven ourselves as reliable members of the Council, once trust is established, then we can talk about sharing knowledge." Vextra nodded. "Wise. You think like someone who has had to fight for everything they have." "Because we have," Tajin said. "You should remember that, High Chancellor. The next time a young species comes to this council asking for a seat, remember what happened with humanity. Remember that today's primitive species might be tomorrow's equal, or tomorrow's enemy if you push them hard enough." "I will remember," Vextra said quietly. "We all will." Tajin turned to leave, then paused. He looked back at the High Chancellor. "One more thing." "Yes?" "Never laugh at humanity again," he said. His voice was soft but carried unmistakable steel. "We earned our place here. We paid for it in decades of isolation and sacrifice. Treat us with respect and we will be loyal allies. Dismiss us again and we will remind you why that was a mistake." He left the chamber, returning to his ship. The human fleet prepared to depart, heading back to Earth with news of their victory. Captain Hana found him on the observation deck. "We did it," she said. "Everything we worked for. Everything our parents and grandparents sacrificed for. We got our seat at the table." "We did," Tajin agreed. "But this is just the beginning. Now comes the hard part. We have to prove we deserve to keep it." "Do you think the Council will honor the agreement?" Hana asked. "For now," Tajin said. "Fear is a powerful motivator. They are afraid of what we can do. But fear fades. Eventually they will test us again. They will push to see if we push back, and when that day comes we need to be ready." "Let them test us," Hana said confidently. "We will show them the same thing we showed Admiral Thexer. Humanity does not back down." Tajin nodded. "Set course for Earth. Let us go home and tell our people that the fight is over. We won." The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading back to Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council's warships parted to let them through. It was a small gesture, but an important one. It was respect. 75 years ago, Captain Daehyun had walked into that council chamber and been laughed at. He had been dismissed, caged, and told to come back when humanity had grown up. Today, humanity had returned. Not with begging or pleading, but with firepower. With weapons that shattered the myths of council invincibility, with the determination to be treated as equals or to make the galaxy pay the price of refusing. The council had laughed once. They would never make that mistake again. As the human fleet disappeared into faster-than-light travel, a message was transmitted across the galaxy to all council species. It was simple and direct. Humanity has joined the Galactic Council as a full member. The age of isolation is over. The age of cooperation begins. Those who wish peace will find us willing partners. Those who wish conflict will find us ready. We are humanity. We are here to stay. The message was received by billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Some welcomed humanity. Others feared them. But all of them understood one truth. The humans who had been dismissed as primitive children had grown into something the galaxy had not seen in a very long time. A species that combined advanced technology with the desperate hunger of the young. A civilization that would fight for every inch of space, every right, every ounce of respect. The Galactic Council had laughed at humanity, and humanity had returned with firepower. The galaxy would never forget,